My next guest is going to be fighting in his first UFC main event, taking on Bobby Green, October 7th. It is right around the corner. It is Grant Dawson back here on the program. Grant, how are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you for taking the time, man. When did you find out about this? Looks like we all found out last week. How much notice did you get?
Last week with you guys. So it was kind of one of those things that was rushed. It was kind of like a three-way tie. Excuse me. It was kind of like a three-way tie between this main event between me, Bobby Green, and Jalin Turner. And for whatever reason, it ended up being me and Bobby Green. So I'm really happy with the matchup. Another big veteran, another big name, somebody who's going to really hype up the fight. And my very first main event, I could not be happier.
And you were just in Paris, right, with Thiago Moises. So, like, I'm sure, like, you've done a bit of traveling, obviously, but, you know, when you got the call.
So I had just gotten back from Paris when my manager called me and talked to me about this opportunity. My manager was actually in Paris to watch Thiago fight, and we talked about what was next, and then this fight ended up happening and presenting itself on the table, and we absolutely wanted, you know, both the matchups, whether it was Jalin Turner or Bobby Green. So it ended up being Bobby Green. Super happy with it. It's a little bit shorter notice, but I got like 4.5 weeks of knowing I was fighting, so I'm good, man. That's all I need.
Good. Well, that's great, man. And just my understanding is, so you were always going to be the main event. It was just whether it was Jalin or Bobby you'd be fighting.
Oh, it was like they needed somebody to fill this spot.
Oh,
and it was
gotcha.
Three of us, and me and Bobby said yes to all three. I don't know this. I'm just guessing that weight was an issue for Jalin Turner, and so that's why it ended up being me and Bobby instead of me and Jalin.
Interesting. Okay, and then you and Bobby have the same management, so was the negotiation fairly easy?
Yeah, it was. It's always easy with Bobby because he never says no. You know, he always says yes. And for me, the only question is can I make the weight and time? And the answer is yes. So it was an absolute yes from me, yes from Bobby. I'm assuming, again, I don't know. I'm assuming they wanted to do me and Jalin more just because we're both ranked. And I'm thinking that Jalin couldn't do it because of the weight. Again, that's just a guess. Maybe something else. I don't know. But yeah, it just fell right in, and I'm super happy with it. I think Bobby is a really good fighter. I think that he's going to hype the fight up a bunch. It's another veteran that I get to go out there and see how I do. He's my first. Ricky Glenn was probably my first veteran, but this is my first like established real veteran that's been in the top 15 for a long time, fought the who's who. I'm ready for it, man.
So we sort of talked about it there. This is the first main event for you as well, and well-deserved, Grant. I mean, we've been doing interviews forever. It's great to see you finally get the shine. Does that kind of like, I don't know, give you a bit of a boost going into this fight, knowing like not everyone's going to get a main event? The UFC obviously thinks very highly of you. Do you sort of look at it from that perspective, or is it just another fight for you?
A little bit of both. My whole goal in my last fight, I was a co-main event against Demir, who I was an underdog against. My whole goal in that fight was to show the UFC that you can put me in these big spots against these big fighters, against these guys that maybe I'm not even supposed to beat, and I will still perform. Obviously, we know how that went. It was a great fight. I really showed how good I can be, and so I think I'm being rewarded for that, you know, and call it God, the universe, whatever you want to say. I think that I'm being rewarded for the time that I've put into this. Now, that's not saying they gave me an easy fight. Bobby Green is a very difficult fight. He's a very good veteran, crafty, and I have to be on my P's and Q's if I want to get through him like I've gotten through everybody else.
What about it being 5 rounds? And this is a bit of short notice. Like, I'm sure you're always working on conditioning and stuff, but how much of a factor will that be? Because that's your first 5-round fight, right?
I guess we're going to find out, you know. Yeah. I always thought that 5 rounds benefits me over 3. Some people have said that they're worried about my cardio. We don't know. Fighting is different than training. I got no problem going 5 rounds in training. So I guess we'll see how it goes. This is another big opportunity for me to show the UFC that I can go those 5 rounds. So if you throw me in a championship fight, which has always been the end goal, I'm going to be able to fight for 5 rounds.
Obviously, you were part of Thiago's camp, I know, for Benoit Saint-Denis. Who else have you had a chance to work with in sort of this mini camp? I know Thiago's obviously out taking some time off after that fight.
I got my buddy Dakota Bush, who's up here.
Oh, awesome.
He's actually getting ready for a fight as well. But it's the same people, man. You know, I'm working with the same people. I got Chris Duncan, who's been helping me out. I've got JJ that's been helping me out. Mike Brown is my coach. Thiago Alves is my other coach. Like, we have no shortage of bodies, and honestly, Bobby is not a hard guy to prepare for. He's got a bit of a unique stance where he kind of keeps his hands low, good boxing, but I think we're going to be ready for it. I don't think there's going to be anything in there that's going to really, really surprise me.
So last fight you made weight, seemed like there were no issues there. And I don't know what you did differently, but I'm assuming you're going to stick with that as opposed to what's happened in the past. Like what is sort of your strategy for the cut, especially with it being a little bit short notice?
I'm working with my guy, Eric Pena. He's got me. He's not worried. Look, if he's not worried, I'm not worried. And I'm also walking a little bit lighter than I was before. Nice. And I think part of that is I was doing Thiago's camp with him. So I think I've got like a pre-camp and then a short, intense camp. I really don't think the short notice is going to be as big of a deal as people think it's going to be. I think it's going to be more of a problem for Bobby than it is for me. Because I'm in the gym. I'm not saying he's not training all the time, but I'm in the gym training all the time. So I really think that this is going to be beneficial. The shorter notice and the 5 rounds benefits me more than hurts me.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And also, I'm sure you love the fact that this fight's in the States, right? It's not like you have to go travel, and that can always play a role in the cut as well, too.
Yeah, I hated being in Paris. It was terrible. I hated Paris so bad. And the flight. I hate flying. It's the worst. Yeah,
no, it adds up a lot of time for sure. And I imagine your corner, Mike Brown, Thiago Alves. Will Thiago be in your corner, or is he going to skip this one?
No, he'll be in my corner, and then I get another one because it's a main event. I'm taking Dakota Bush as well.
Nice, good for Dakota. That's cool. You guys are still grinding, away, which is awesome. It's a 5-round fight, Grant. I know you don't like getting paid by the hour. You want to get in and get out of there. How's this one playing out on October 7th?
Man, I think it goes the same way. I think Bobby gets to decide how this goes. I'm going to be on him like white on rice. I'm going to be grinding. I'm good to go 5 rounds. If he wants to protect his neck, not take any chances, then I'm cool going 5 rounds. But if he wants to try to escape or get something going, I think that he might make a mistake, and I might be the first guy to ever submit Bobby Green.
There we go. Very, very bold. We just had a big card last weekend, UFC 293. We have a new middleweight champion. Your reaction to Sean Strickland winning the title from Izzy, especially the way he did it.
Crazy, man. If he was going to win, I thought it would be by knockout. I thought that he would catch him, and he almost did in the first. I feel like Izzy kind of came out with the same mentality he did against Yoel Romero, and Yoel Romero just couldn't capitalize on it. And what do I know about Izzy? But I think that his problem is he's willing to have these close fights and let the judges dictate what's going on, because I just feel like he should have been a little bit more urgent in those 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds. And
just last thing on 293, a lot of people are asking what's next for Sean Strickland. Dana seemed to be hinting that they want to do a rematch. Would you like to see that, or would you rather see someone like Drakus, who just, I think he deserves a shot, injured or not or whatever. He destroyed Robert Whittaker. That's got to be enough for a title shot.
Yeah, I think that Duplessis should get the next shot. And I would really like to see that fight play out, because both guys are really, really good and very untechnical. I say untechnical. They have their a very unique way of fighting. Like Strickland's got this weird shifty boxing style, and Duplessis is just all over the place. I really think that his game plan is, you don't know what I'm doing because I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
And he's an odd duck, and man, I just don't think he's a very good fighter, but he keeps winning fights. And I wouldn't say that to his face because he beat me up, but he keeps winning fights, man. So that's the fight that I want to see. I'd also like to see what's his name, black dude that fought.
Jared Cannonier.
Cannonier, yeah. I would love to see Cannonier back in there with Strickland. I think that.
Yeah. Well, he has a win over him, right? I know it was close, but he still has a win over him, right? Not that long ago either.
I felt like Strickland, because he got knocked out by Alex, he was hesitant when he was fighting Cannonier, because Cannonier's got really, really good power as well. So I think that winning against Izzy, I think that would build his confidence back up, and I actually think that fight would be a lot better this go around. The first fight was close and kind of boring, but I do think that the next fight, if they do Cannonier and him, would be a lot closer and less boring, because I think Strickland would open up a bit more.
And what do you think of this? I mean, again, I'm not a matchmaker here, but if you do Strickland and Duplessis or Strickland and Cannonier, Why don't they just do Izzy and Hamzat? If Hamzat beats Costa, of course. I mean, that's not a walk in the park like a lot of people are suggesting. I think that that's going to be an interesting fight. But then you still get the fight that it seems like everyone wanted to see anyways. You get Izzy and Hamzat. He beats Hamzat. He's right back in the title shot. I know some people want to see the rematch, but I think that would be a cool fight. You take advantage of it, right?
I love that. The only issue is I think that Hamzat is, dude, he came into the UFC. He fought twice in like 7 days, and that's what he got famous. That's how he got famous.
Yeah.
Then he fights once a year.
Yeah.
I think after he beats Costa, we're not going to see him for another year. I really
true.
believe. And then he might be like, no, I'm going to go down to 70. No, I'm going to stay at 85. I just think that I don't know this. I'm just guessing. Like, I think that there's something in Khamzat that wants a little bit more time before he's put into a title shot. And I think what he's doing is he's beating a guy and then taking time to get better. Oh, I'm going to go down a weight class. No, I'm going to come up a weight class. No, I'm going to go down a weight class. That indecisiveness, I think he's just trying to build his skill. I think he's just mentally not ready for that shot in his mind, and he's trying to like build that skill. That's the only way I can see, because everybody wants to see him fight.
Mm-hmm.
UFC wants to see him fight. He's got no shortage of opponents that won't fight him. And in his words, he wants to fight. Usually when you have those three things lined up, you get a guy that fights many times a year. This guy fights once a year. So I think he's pulling our legs a little bit, and he doesn't really want to fight as much as people think he wants to fight.
Okay. And then at the top of your division, we obviously have Islam and Charles fighting. I think I asked you about this before, but I'll ask you again. Just looking at the rematch, how do you see that playing out?
I do think that Islam is going to win again, but I think that it'll be a lot closer of a fight than it was before. And the reason why is 90% of the nerves going into fights is the unknown, right? I don't know what this is going to be like. I don't know how strong this dude is. I don't know how hard this dude hits. I know that Islam beat Oliveira already, but at least there's that familiarity. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say. Yeah, it's good.
It's a hard word for me, right?
Yeah, we're not wordsmiths here, okay? We're talking about fighting.
That's why I'm fighting. But I do think that he will do a lot better. I don't think he's going to quit this time. I think that he'll keep the same game plan, but try to be a little bit sharper. I do think Islam will get the takedown and will beat him up on the ground, but I do see it going more rounds than it was before. I think it could be a decision this time.
Okay.
Also keep in mind that Islam doesn't look like the god that he's looked like before, because he had a really, really close fight with a 45er. So he's not this mythical beast anymore. He looks human. Oliveira has faced him before, and Oliveira is coming off of a big win over Dariush. So I think that this has got a lot of momentum to be a really, really good fight. However, I am still picking Islam by decision.
Okay. Back to your fight. Bobby Green, I think one of the interesting things, while he's not ranked, he's still a pretty notable name in the division. So with that said, a finish over him especially, where does that put you in the division with a win here?
Man, I really don't know. I try not to think about that a whole lot, because I thought after beating Demir, I'd be, top 8, and we'd be talking about me fighting, RDA or something like that. Now I'm fighting. So I really just try to ignore that. My hope is that I finish Bobby. I show the UFC what I'm made of, and I get Dan Hooker next, because I think that Dan Hooker was the fight that I should have had if he didn't get injured, which of course isn't his fault. I'm not saying anything about Dan Hooker, but I do think that is the next step for me. All of my attention is on beating Bobby Green right now, though, because if I lose to Bobby Green, it shows that I'm not ready for that spot, and I really feel like I'm ready. I really feel like I'm ready for those big fights, those big money, and eventually getting that title shot. So everything comes down to beating Bobby Green October 7th, my first main event, and then after that, I'm hoping to get Dan Hooker.
Before we go, what did you think of Laura Sanko finally doing commentary on a UFC pay-per-view? You've known Laura for a long time.
Yeah, I've known Laura for almost a decade now, and I thought she killed it. I thought she did really, really good. I thought her and DC and was it John Anik? Yeah. I thought they all had really good chemistry, and I think that's the hardest part. Dominic Cruz and Paul Felder and John Anik have really, really good chemistry. They're all really good. Dominic Cruz and DC, not DC, Michael Bisping, maybe not as much good chemistry because they're always trying to talk over each other. But I thought she did really, really good, and I'm very, very happy to see a woman like Laura work her butt off and be able to get to that spot. Like, she's done something that no other woman has done, other than in like UFC 2, I think they had a girl commentate, but a pay-per-view, that's awesome, man. I'm super happy for her.
And speaking of hard work and things paying off, looking forward to this main event, Grant, October 7th, UFC Fight Night. If there's anyone you want to thank before we get out of here, as usual, I'll give you the last word.
I do want to thank my coaches and my team, as usual. One thing that I do want to say really quick, I'm doing a series on TikTok called Making It to the UFC Using Fight IQ. And what I do is I'm basically just giving advice to younger fighters on the things that I had to go through and the stuff that I wish I had done, and some things that I had done that I knew kind of saved my career. So if you guys have any questions or want to check that out, go on to TikTok, check that out. Also, if any of these young fighters want to talk to me, reach out to me on Instagram, reach out to me on TikTok. I'm always trying to talk to people and help grow the sport as much as I can. So thanks, guys.